Hey, would you throw a fish, a bologna sandwich, spaghetti and meatballs, some chocolate cake, and a can of Diet Coke into a blender and call it dinner? Hell no, that would be a disgusting, unholy mess. And yet, that's exactly what so many coaches are doing. They're tossing a website, a podcast, some social media posts, and a freebie into a blender, slapping a label on it, and calling it a business. Seriously, that's gotta stop. A real business isn't just a random pile of content and wishful thinking. It looks like something that actually makes you money. That's the whole point. You need people who are actually interested in hearing what you have to say. That's the very first thing that needs to go into that blender, and maybe the only thing when you're first starting out. But here's the thing, interest alone isn't enough. You've got to say something meaningful, intriguing. It ought to make people whip their heads around and say, damn, I've never heard it put that way before. Can you do that? Because if you can't, nothing else will work. Your website won't be worth clicking. Your podcast interviews, background noise. Your social media posts, blending into the void like vanilla ice cream melting at the bottom of a sundae. Your freebie, not even worth giving up an email address for. In other words, if you don't have something powerful and original to say, you're just adding to the noise. And honestly, you'd be better off not talking at all. Because when you put yourself out there in a way that doesn't move the conversation forward, you don't just get ignored, you actively repel the people you're trying to attract. People don't just lose interest, they decide you were never worth paying attention to in the first place. That's just terrible to think about. So what should you do? Well, first, stop throwing random tactics at the wall and hoping something sticks. Strategy beats scattershot every time. And with a trademarkable message that ultimately makes you trademarkable, things start to change. What that means is you need to say something worth listening to. If your content sounds like a copy-paste job from the coaching echo chamber, you're dead in the water. Find the perspective that makes people feel something. Surprise them, challenge them, wake them up. Then build a business, not a content pile. A website, a podcast, and social media posts are just tools. They aren't a strategy. If they're not leading people toward an offer that makes you money, they're just creating busy work for you. Meanwhile, people are looking away because who needs more noise in their life? Finally, become untouchable. The goal isn't to be one of many in your industry. It's to be the one your ideal client can't unsee. That starts with, as I was saying, having something to say, something worth paying attention to. Offer up a perspective so strong that people either lead in or they walk away. Don't back away from being polarizing. That's what makes you interesting. Look, you don't need more content. You need more meaning behind what you say. So, if you've been blending up a mess and calling it a business, it's time to step back, strip it down, and build a foundation on which to grow a real business. And the fastest, easiest way to do that is with what I call a mighty tiny book that delivers a powerful, meaningful punch because it actually gives you something to talk about. In fact, when you write the kind of book we teach you to write, you never run out of interesting things to say. And when that happens, your business doesn't just grow, so does your bank account. You're just one tiny book away from having this all figured out. Finally.